Toto Wolff and Mercedes have finally broken their silence on the leaked Max Verstappen meeting, and their explanation may have exposed something even bigger. The photographs placed Wolff and Verstappen in the same Mediterranean setting for the second consecutive summer, exactly when Verstappen's reported Red Bull exit clause became active. Mercedes says there is nothing more than friendship. Mercedes also says George Russell and Kimi Antonelli are confirmed for 2027. But here is the problem. Wolff has already warned that if the Mercedes title fight turns toxic, he will remove a driver. And Mercedes currently holds the strongest position in Formula 1 with 8 victories from the first 11 races, while Antonelli leads Russell by 59 points. So why is the most powerful team principal on the grid publicly threatening his drivers while staying this close to Max Verstappen? Because this may not be about an empty seat today, it may be about creating the most dangerous backup plan in Formula 1. And the final detail behind that meeting could reveal which Mercedes driver is truly at risk. Subscribe to the channel. The first thing to understand is that Mercedes has not confirmed any secret negotiation with Max Verstappen. The available source does not prove that a contract was discussed. It does not prove that Toto Wolff offered Verstappen a seat. And it does not prove that George Russell or Kimi Antonelli is about to be replaced. What it does show is something far more uncomfortable. For the second consecutive summer, Wolff and Verstappen were photographed in the same Mediterranean setting alongside their partners. Both camps have described the relationship as friendly. On its own, that explanation is completely possible. Formula 1 is a small world. Team principals, drivers, managers, and families often know one another away from the track. But context changes everything. These photographs did not appear during an ordinary season. They appeared while Mercedes was dominating the first year of the new technical regulations. They appeared while Verstappen was more than 100 points behind championship leader Kimi Antonelli. And they appeared after Verstappen's performance-based Red Bull exit clause reportedly became active at the summer break. That timing is why the story refuses to disappear. Because even a friendly meeting becomes politically powerful when one side has the fastest car and the other side has the most valuable driver. Mercedes had won 8 of the opening 11 races. Antonelli held a 59-point advantage over Russell. Verstappen sat 6th in the championship and was mathematically out of title contention. Those numbers create a very clear picture. Mercedes has what Verstappen needs. Verstappen has what almost every team wants. And Toto Wolff understands exactly how that looks. This is where the story becomes less about what happened during the holiday, and more about what the photographs do to everyone around them. For Red Bull, they create pressure. The team has reportedly offered Verstappen a new agreement running through 2029. That proposal would remove the performance clause entirely. In simple terms, Red Bull wants certainty. It wants Verstappen committed for longer. It wants the escape route closed. But Verstappen does not have to rush. According to the source, he has until October to decide. That gives him time to watch. He can watch whether Red Bull improves. He can watch whether Mercedes continues winning. He can watch how Russell and Antonelli handle the pressure of fighting for the same championship. And he can watch whether Wolff's warning becomes more than words. That warning is the detail that changes the meaning of the entire story. Wolff said he would not allow the Mercedes title fight to become destructive. He said it would never happen to him again. He said it would never happen to the team again. And then he made the consequence brutally clear. If one driver damages the team, Wolff says he will take that driver out. That does not mean a removal is already planned. The source does not support that conclusion. But it does mean Wolff wants both drivers to understand that their places are not more important than Mercedes. That message applies to Russell. It applies to Antonelli. And because Verstappen remains connected to Wolff publicly, the warning carries even more force. Without Verstappen in the background, removing the driver would create another problem. Mercedes would need a replacement capable of fighting for victories immediately. But when the possible replacement is Max Verstappen, the threat feels completely different. Mercedes would not be replacing one strong driver with someone weaker. It could be replacing one championship contender with a multiple world champion. Again, there is no confirmed plan. But Formula 1 is driven by possibility as much as certainty. And the possibility is now impossible to ignore. That places George Russell under extraordinary pressure. Wolff has defended him. He explained that Russell's difficult run was not simply caused by poor driving. In Montreal, Russell had been leading before he retired. Mercedes later discovered an engine problem worth around 0.2 of a second. Russell also suffered a drive-through penalty in Monaco and a difficult first-lap incident in Belgium. Then Hungary added another painful weekend. He started 6th. The car's anti-stall system activated at the start. He recovered, but finished only 7th. Meanwhile, Antonelli finished 3rd and maintained his championship lead. That gap does not automatically mean Russell is failing. The source makes clear that reliability and incidents have affected his results. Wolff also called him tough. He said the best drivers can turn difficult situations around. And he said Russell can do exactly that. But public support does not remove private pressure. Russell entered the season with more experience. He was considered the safer championship choice. Antonelli was still the younger driver learning his 2nd season. Now Antonelli leads by 59 points. That completely changes the emotional balance inside the team. Russell is no longer only chasing the championship leader, he is chasing his own teammate. And every time Antonelli finishes ahead, the future begins to look more centered around the younger driver. That is where Verstappen becomes dangerous to Russell, even without a formal offer. If Russell loses the title fight cleanly, Mercedes may still keep him. If he recovers, Wolff's faith may be rewarded. But if frustration turns into conflict, Wolff has already described the consequence. He will protect the team. And the leaked photographs make everyone wonder whether he has already protected himself with another option. But Antonelli cannot ignore the warning either. He may be leading the championship. He may have the momentum. He may look like the future of Mercedes. Yet Wolff did not say the slower driver would be removed. He said a driver would be removed if the battle became toxic. That means the threat is about behavior, not only performance. Antonelli must fight Russell. But he must not damage Mercedes while doing it. Russell must close the gap. But he must not turn desperation into chaos. Both drivers are being asked to do something incredibly difficult. Race with complete aggression. Protect their own championship. And somehow preserve the team at the same time. That sounds possible when the cars are separated. It becomes much harder when both drivers enter the same corner with the title at stake. One late-breaking move can change everything. One collision can trigger blame. One strategy call can make one side believe the team has chosen a favorite. And once that feeling enters a garage, it does not disappear easily. That is the history Wolff is trying to prevent from repeating. His language was not casual. He spoke like someone who had already lived through the damage. A teammate rivalry can split engineers. It can turn every strategy call into an accusation. It can make drivers stop sharing information. It can transform a dominant car into a political battlefield. Mercedes may have the fastest package, but the fastest package can still lose if the drivers begin fighting the team as much as they fight each other. That is why Wolff's threat matters. He is trying to create a boundary before the season reaches its most dangerous stage. But the boundary also creates fear. How much aggression is acceptable? What happens if Russell refuses to move aside? What happens if Antonelli believes the team is protecting Russell? What happens if one driver causes contact while trying to win the championship? Wolff has not publicly defined every possible situation. That means the drivers will not know where the final line sits until someone gets close to crossing it. And Verstappen remains in the background of every decision. This is what makes the photographs so powerful. They do not prove a transfer. They create a shadow. Every difficult Russell weekend now leads to the same question. Could Verstappen replace him? Every mistake from Antonelli creates another question. Would Wolff really remove his championship leader if the rivalry became destructive? Every Red Bull failure creates a third question. How much longer will Verstappen wait? None of those questions has a confirmed answer. But all of them are now connected. And then came another meeting that made Verstappen's position even more mysterious. Before the Wolff holiday photographs appeared, Verstappen's father, Jos, and his manager, Raymond Vermeulen, were seen meeting former Red Bull advisor Helmut Marko in Amsterdam. Dutch media described it as a crisis summit. Marko is no longer serving in his former Red Bull role. But his relationship with the Verstappen camp remains deeply important. He helped bring Max into Formula One as a teenager. He understands Red Bull's internal structure. He understands the history. And according to the source, he remains in close contact with the people around Verstappen. The meeting does not prove Max is leaving. It does not prove Marko advised him to activate the clause. It does not prove Mercedes was part of the conversation. But it shows that the future is serious enough for the closest people around Verstappen to remain actively involved. That matters because Verstappen's manager has chosen his words carefully. He said Max wants to finish his time at Red Bull. That sounds reassuring. But he also said the performance clause has existed before and was not used. He did not say it could never be used. That distinction is critical. Wanting to finish with Red Bull is not the same as guaranteeing it. A driver can prefer to stay. He can still leave if the project no longer gives him what he needs. He can feel loyalty. He can still choose performance. And Mercedes is currently giving him the clearest possible example of what Red Bull is not. A championship-leading car. A dominant start under the new regulations. A team with 2 drivers already fighting at the front. That makes Wolff's position unusually strong. He does not need to chase Verstappen desperately. Mercedes is already winning. It already has the championship leader. It already has Russell under contract. Wolff can wait. He can maintain the relationship. He can allow the photographs to create pressure. And he can decide later whether an opening is necessary. That is much more dangerous than a public contract offer. A public offer can be rejected. A public negotiation can collapse. But a relationship kept alive in private can remain useful for years. Mercedes has reportedly confirmed both Russell and Antonelli for 2027. That means Verstappen cannot simply walk into an empty seat. Something would have to change. A driver would need to leave. A contract would need to be altered. The internal rivalry would need to become unmanageable. Or Mercedes would need to plan beyond the immediate season. The source does not reveal which path exists. It may be that none exists right now. But Wolff's warning tells us he is prepared to create change if the team is damaged. And Verstappen's situation tells us the strongest possible replacement may soon have more freedom than Red Bull wants. That is why Mercedes breaking its silence does not close the story. Calling the relationship friendly may be completely honest. Confirming Russell and Antonelli may be completely accurate. But neither statement removes the possibility of a future move. It only describes the situation today. Formula One contracts protect the present. Performance changes the future. And the second half of the season could put every promise under pressure. If Russell recovers, the danger shrinks. If Antonelli continues winning cleanly, Mercedes has no reason to interfere. If Red Bull improves, Verstappen may decide to stay. But if the Mercedes rivalry explodes, if Red Bull continues struggling, and if Verstappen refuses a deal that removes his exit clause, the same holiday photographs will suddenly look very different. They will no longer look like a harmless coincidence. They will look like the moment everyone saw the possibility before Mercedes was ready to admit it. And that is the real reason Toto Wolff's explanation has not ended the speculation. Because friendship can be innocent. But in Formula One, friendship between the dominant team principal and the most valuable available driver can also become the foundation of the biggest move on the grid.